Hello and welcome. This is Anthony over at Conqueror Outdoors, and this week we have decided to do a feature on TenPoint's quiver mount brackets. So there are two varying styles when it comes to these quiver brackets. For example, here on the Shadow NXT, we have the ambidextrous side mount quiver bracket. So this bracket allows for the quiver to be mounted parallel to either side of the stock, and this ultimately provides greater maneuverability for the crossbow with narrow assemblies, as seen here on the Shadow NXT. And there's a second style that's offered through TenPoint with these brackets, and it can be seen here on this Invader X4, and it's known as the Undermount quiver bracket. And as you can see, this bracket here sits perpendicular to the stock. So the cool thing about these quiver brackets is that they're both compatible with TenPoint crossbows, Horton crossbows, Wicked Ridge, and most modern quivers. So now that I've gone over some of the mount quiver bracket details, I'd like to go into more depth as far as how to install some of these brackets. So I'm going to go ahead and start with showing you how to install the ambidextrous side mount quiver bracket. And I'll be doing so on this TenPoint Shadow NXT. So as you can see, there are quite a few different number of parts that come into play while installing the TenPoint ambidextrous side mount quiver bracket. But I wouldn't let it overwhelm you. They're all actually quite simple to do. So I'm going to go ahead and show you where to start. So let's first find our rubber hose. And this is going to be inserted to the backside of our TenPoint quiver. So let's go ahead and flip our TenPoint quiver so that it's on its backside. And here you will find two inserts in which we will be able to place this rubber hose in. So let's go ahead and place this in the inserts. And you can go ahead and line the hose up with the quiver head here. And just like that, we've got the first part of our installation done. So next we are going to be looking for the plastic mount bracket in which we will be installing to the backside of our quiver here. You can see these pre-drilled screw holes here. So let's go ahead and get this plastic bracket here, and you're going to want to find the circular end here. So that's going to be facing towards the back end of our quiver. So you're going to want to attach this into these pre-drilled screw holes here, not the first, second, but third hole. So the second hole is going to line up with the third hole on this backside of the quiver. And using these screws that have been provided for you, you will attach the mount to the quiver. So all you need for this is a screwdriver. Let's go ahead and tighten these screws. So this next part of the installation requires some focus on the stirrup of the crossbow. As you can see, I've flipped our crossbow to its underside, and now you can see these pre-drilled screw holes here. And usually there are some inserts that are holding your stirrup in place, and you're going to want to remove them using an Allen wrench. So I've gone ahead and done that already. And these spaces here are where we are going to attach our mount. And our mount is attached using these screws that have a nut attached to the end of them. And they may have came separate, and you can go ahead and assemble them so that they are just one piece. That'll make this a little easier. So let's go ahead and get our mount here, and using one of these bolts we can go ahead and attach it to our bottom of our crossbow here. So these bolts not only serve as a mount function, but they also hold the stirrup in place, as the screw sets did earlier that you removed. So you can go ahead and attach these bolts by hand for now, just to get them in place. And using an Allen wrench, we're going to go ahead and tighten it a little more. So that way our stirrup is held securely, as well as our mount. So now that we've got our mount secure, we can go ahead and attach our side bracket to it. And remember, this is ambidextrous, so it could be on any side depending on your preference. And since I am a right-handed shooter, I'm going to go ahead and install it for a right-handed user. So as you can see, there are some pre-drilled holes here on our bracket as well as on our mount. So using some of the screws that have been provided for you upon the purchase, you are going to go ahead and attach these pre-drilled holes to the pre-drilled holes on the mount. So let's go ahead and line this up here, get our screw in place, and begin to tighten our first screw. So now let's move on to our second screw here. Make sure it's lined up again, and start to tighten this second screw. So once we've got our mount and our bracket on attached securely, we can go ahead and move on to the final step of this installation process. And the last piece that needs to be attached is our instant detach lever. And this is attached the same way in which we're going to line up a screw with the pre-drilled holes and screw them into place. So remember, we want the entrance of this lever to be pointing towards the quiver so that way we could use this correctly. So let's go ahead and get one of our screws and line up these pre-drilled holes and start to install this. So again, as mentioned earlier, this is our quick release lever, and this allows for us to release or insert our quiver as easily as possible. Very convenient feature of this. I'd like to go ahead and give a demonstration here on the quick lever release. So we're going to go ahead and unlock this lever here by opening it, which allows for us to remove our quiver. So now our quiver is detached from our crossbow. And as simple as it was to detach it, we could go ahead and simply reattach it by sliding this quiver into the bracket and securing it in place by closing the lever here. As you can see, our quiver is now locked into place. Here we have the end result of the installation process of our TenPoint ambidextrous side mount quiver bracket. And as you can see, the bracket again allows for the quiver to sit parallel to the crossbow stock as opposed to perpendicular, as I will show you in this next installation segment. So here we have the undermount quiver bracket parts, and these will be needed to install the quiver. And as we did in the previous installation segment, I'm going to start by finding the rubber hose here, which will be inserted to the back end of our quiver. So let's go ahead and flip our quiver so that we could see again these two inserts in which we will place our rubber hose to. So let's go ahead and attach our rubber hose to these inserts here. Once we've got that in place, we can go ahead and move on to the part of adding our plastic mount to the back end of our quiver. So remember, we are going to want to go to the third hole, and using the screws provided, we can go ahead and place the second hole on our bracket to this third hole on our quiver. Remember, they are pre-drilled screw holes in which we are placing these screws in. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in by hand before I start to tighten them with the screwdriver. So let's go ahead and put these in place by tightening them. There we go, we are ready for the next part of our installation. This next part of the installation focuses on the stirrup of the crossbow. So we're going to go ahead and flip the crossbow to its underside, as you can see here. And we are going to want to locate these insert screw holes. And in these inserts you are typically going to find some pre-inserted screws. We can go ahead and take those out with the Allen wrench, as I already have done so. And this will allow for us to attach our bracket to it using these bolts here. So let's go ahead and line up our bracket to these drill holes and begin to attach them. We'll start on this side here. Got one in place. So again, a nice thing about these installations is that a lot of it can be done by hand, but in case you need it to be tighter, you can go ahead and tighten it. Let's go ahead and do so. Remember, you want this mount to be nice and secure on there for your quiver. The installation process for the underside mount bracket is a lot more simple than the ambidextrous mount. There are far less steps for this, and we are actually on the final one now. So we can go ahead and attach our instant detach lever to the mount, so that way we can attach our quiver to it. So as seen in the previous segment, you are going to attach the remaining screws to the pre-drilled hole on the lever, and that's going to attach to our mount here. So let's go ahead and put this in place. Let's line up these holes and tighten our first screw. Same with our second screw here. Remember, you want this to be as snug as possible. And there we have our quick lever release in place. We can easily go ahead and slide our bracket into place. And once again, this is what our end product should look like upon completing the underside mount bracket. As you can see, the quiver sits perpendicular with the crossbow stock as opposed to parallel like the ambidextrous mount. And that is one of the biggest differences between the two kinds of mounts there. So I hope this has helped you guys understand exactly how to install one of the two brackets. And happy hunting! Thanks for watching!